there's another way for this to happen, the split in the country. I'm praying for Donald because it just looks very clear to me that they're going to assassinate him unless he does something different. And he may have a double out there, I don't know. They're going to assassinate him and start a civil war, bring the UN in, peacekeeping troops. Ha ha. I'm just pressing into him now, asking him what's going on. I mean, is there a way we can avoid this terrible thing? I mean, could all the nations or all the states band together now and throw off the yoke of this false government? That's what I'm asking him now. Does it have to be this way? So tell me the dream.
Well, my dream, my brother Mike was young, and I was probably maybe 20, 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My mother had a doctor's appointment. We were still in Sterlington, the place where I took you outside of Monroe, where we used to live, on the bayou. And it had grown a little bit, and had little car washes and things like that, you know. Had some cinder block kind of buildings. And man, all of a sudden, they had just newly paved a road. You know how they pave a road and the pavement's thick and you got to be careful to stay on the road and not go off the sidewalk. My mom was, it was her car, so she was driving. I noticed she started to swerve, and I noticed that she was going off the road. And I said, Mom, you're not right. Something's not right. You know, we need to stop the car. I need to drive. So I got behind the wheel. She was on the other side. We started driving. I mean, this couldn't have been a stretch of like 12 to 20 miles, maybe. And so we're going down the road, and the sky started getting really dark, you know, just black, dark clouds, you know, with hooks kind of coming down from the clouds. And I'm telling you, these huge, like F5 tornadoes, giant, wide, huge, started swirling across what used to be cotton fields and things. And they were headed toward us. But the hooks would, you know, in coming down from the clouds, what they call hooks.
Right.
Pointed places that, you know, the cane, they'd come down and then the debris would start flying from the ground up, and you could tell with the swirling.
Wow.
It was about to become a tornado. And they were, I mean, everywhere. As far as you could see, there were, you know, miles and miles of these things.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all around. And as we continued to drive, one of them was right in the road, but it didn't look too big or too bad. You know, it looked kind of like a big dust storm. So I drove through it. And of course, it, you know, pelted the car and rocked it. And in fact, at one point, it kind of picked up the. I didn't realize this till I put it together later, but it actually picked up the car. It sucked up the back of the car. I thought it was spinning off of the pavement. I thought I'd gone off the pavement, but it was just the car was being lifted up from the back. So I got through that one, and there were truckers and people behind me and oncoming traffic, and they were off the road and swerving and stopping. And you know, when you got into one of these things, there was so much debris and dirt and dust coming up that was being sucked up.
You couldn't see any.
You couldn't see, so you had to you had to almost stop or just keep going to hope you make it through. And for some reason, I just knew I had to keep going, that I had better not stop. And a commercial jet line was coming overhead when I came through this thing and got out the other side. Was coming overhead, and I thought, man, that thing is really flying low. And it was in a flight path. I'm going to land in Monroe, Louisiana. And sure enough, the thing went right down. I thought it was going to crash. It came put itself in a landing position. It was going to try to kind of lift the nose up and land. And all of these fields that had been freshly, plowed and stuff. But it went too far and went right into the edge of the field, into the trees.
Oh no.
Which were really thick, and just plowed right. And I thought, oh boy, here comes the fireball, But it didn't explode, but it did crash land across the field into the trees. And here comes another tornado, I'm just really trying to grit my teeth and get through this thing. And they were spotted, probably a few miles apart.
Right.
They were here, there, and everywhere. And threatening, very threatening,
right.
to come down. And one came down really, really thin. But they would grow into these mix of enormous, like F5 twisters, like the kind that hit Oklahoma City, many years ago, and that kind of thing. It was a very historic tornado. It wiped out everything. I mean, just demolished it. And I'm trying to get through these things, and I realized, forget the doctor. I'm going to have to get to the town and get in some place inside of a cinder block car wash or something that had concrete that was stable. And I'm going along, and boy, here comes a commuter jet. And this thing is just forced down, cracks up on the road, and goes off to the other side of the road and off the road. And it was all bent up, and of course there were people and stuff, but I had to keep going, and made it through another twister and through this. It seemed like forever until you get through the debris field and the bottom of the twist. And of course, it's shaking the car around. I went through several of these. We were in like a station wagon, so it had a back window. All of a sudden, it just sucked the back window out of the car. So there was like a vacuum in the car. And my mom had her window down in the passenger seat, and I rolled it up real quick just to try to cut off some of the suction. And I'm telling you, there were 18-wheelers off on the side. It just looked like Coca-Cola cans or soda cans, just twisted and crunched up. And they were falling on cars and falling on houses and stuff.
Coca-Cola cans?
18-wheelers, like transport trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them were fuel trucks. I mean, they were carrying like petroleum and stuff.
Boy.
And I thought, oh my gosh.
They were falling on houses?
On houses, on cars, just crushing. Because they've been sucked up in the air. And then they, when they got out of the suction, of course, the weight of these big trucks,
right,
transport trucks, they just fall, to the ground and crush whatever they landed on. And they'd be twisted like soda cans. I mean, boy, it was so scary. My younger brother Mike was gosh, I guess he was in his 14 or something like that, 14 years old at the time. He was coming over the seat and trying to help me hold the steering wheel.
Wow.
Because it was just
vibrating.
Gosh, it's the whole car was just shaking, just shaking. Whether we were in the funnel or not. I was desperate. We were desperate to get to some palm plantations now, but they were cotton fields back then.
Right.
So they had been freshly plowed under. It was all dirt and flat. No hills,
cover anywhere.
No hills.
No overpasses.
Nothing. Where I grew up, it was just cotton fields, you know. And oh my gosh, this was northeast Louisiana, which is not far from where this F4 tornado just hit Mississippi just now.
Sterlington or something.
Yeah, Sterlington, Louisiana is not too far. And Monroe, Louisiana, they're northeast Louisiana. It's called the Arklamis, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi.
Okay.
Right? So in present time, out of the dream, it's really close to where I guess we heard that tornado just hit in Mississippi, right? It's flattened everything. And it was an F4. Well, these were even bigger. In between, you know, different size at different times, but man, they were everywhere. I thought, oh my God, you know, in the dream, it reminded me of the 2012 movie where all these tornadoes and twisters were hitting Los Angeles. You remember?
Yeah.
Before the tsunamis and all that. We're about to get into the little town, and there was like a garage type of place, a little strip center. I knew it was made of cinder block concrete. I knew it was stable, you know? And they had like a drive-in place at the end where you could drive in, and it was closed on three sides. It was only open to drive in, you know, wash your car, and then back out. In the old days, back out and get out of there. Hand washer, high pressure thing. And just before I got there, we had already seen probably 3 or 4 commercial jets go down the same way that the first one did. Only they were, oh my gosh, they were so low and so close you could see the people, you could see the stewardesses. And these things were breaking, almost like cracking in half.
Oh my gosh.
In, you know, above the ground a few hundred feet. And I don't know how this happened, but somehow one of the men that obviously fell out of the plane when it broke up, the wind was so strong and swirling that it caught him in the air and slammed him up against the back seat door window, you know, and kept him there. He was just suctioned onto the car, and we rolled the window down and pulled him in. Well, thank God the man was still alive, you know, badly shaken.
I thought the window had gone.
The back window had sucked out the rear on a station or van or something where it's a stationary window. It just sucked out of the car backwards. Wow. So we already didn't have a back window. This was, picture a station wagon. You have front seats, back seats, and then that back place where you put your luggage, your kids, or whatever. So the back seat, he was against the side door and window of the back seat right behind me. And I don't know how I did it, but man, my brother Mike and my mom and pulled him in.
Wow.
And, I reached back with one hand, and he ended up kind of just sitting in the back seat between the 2 front seats, right? There was a space with the console. So. Right. And, oh man, he was really, really messed up, but he was alive. I see the strip center on my right, and at the end of it, the little driving back out old-timey car wash with the high-pressure washer. And I pulled into that, and man, everything was just rattled, and just shaking violently. And I thought, my God, I remembered.
Even in the car wash?
Yeah. And I thought, my God, these cinder blocks are just going to come apart, even though it was concrete and cinder blocks and whatever on solid ground. And I remembered on the way through these tornadoes, there was a little card hanging from the rearview mirror that had the image of Jesus with his sacred heart, one hand to his heart, one hand blessing. And I said, Mom, start praying just start praying to the Sacred Heart. Beg, and we didn't have time to pray all kinds of prayers and stuff and figure it out. This was just something that was phenomenally catastrophic that we'd never been through, but nobody had ever been through before in that area. So the whole way through the tornadoes and stuff, when it would get really bad and it would look like we were just about to be broken and twisted, Sacred Heart, Sacred Heart of Jesus, save us. Sacred Heart, Jesus, save us, And by that prayer, by that little desperate prayer out of our mouths, we get through. We get through it when everyone else was going off the road, across the road. Planes crashing, transport truck. It was horrible. It was just horrible. I've been up for 2 days and nights, so I've slept probably easily over 12 hours. And I woke up, but badly shaken. I've been laying here for, probably a couple hours just trying to get my head straight.
Trying to land?
Trying to get my head straight and get out of that place, and I couldn't. I feel physically like I felt in the dream almost. I just feel like I've just come out of these horrible storms. And it wasn't symbolic. It was literal. It was in tornado season. It was coming into summer, first part of fall. It was in hurricane season, actually. But we know that the climate has changed and it was really balmy, hot, sticky, well, not hot, but balmy, warm, sticky, like it is in Louisiana. And oh my gosh, it was almost like the elements of nature had absolutely just
gone wild,
let loose and gone wild.